Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this exciting workshop about how blockchain and crypto can be used for charity and impact. My name is Yitzy Hammer. I'm from Israel, and I've spent the last 12 years deeply ingrained in Israel's vibrant, high-tech ecosystem. First, working for the JDC, the leading global Jewish humanitarian organization, as the head of social business and entrepreneurship, and then as a lawyer at Israel's top law firms, working with tech companies and investors on all their legal matters. Today, I run a legal practice that focuses on emerging technologies. These refer to new technology solutions, which are typically highly regulated or have regulation which is forthcoming, like blockchain, crypto, AI, big data, and others. We provide multi-jurisdictional legal services, corporate and commercial, as well as regulatory compliance, helping companies navigate these complexities and remain compliant. Through my work with tech companies and entrepreneurs, I discovered my passion for blockchain. Blockchain is unlike any other tech industry I've come across. The technology, the companies, the people, and of course, the conferences, shout out to the ECC folks who have done a wonderful job here, are truly incredible. And as anyone building in this space can attest, there's never a dull moment, and the same goes for the legal and regulatory side of the business. Just ask Ripple, Coinbase, Binance, or anybody else who's building in this space. It's not easy, which is why I love working in this industry. I'm constantly forced to think outside the box, to learn new things, and to be creative. In addition to my passion for technology and innovation, I've always been very involved in community work and volunteering. In my other hat, when I'm not lawyering, I'm working with nonprofits either as a volunteer or as a lawyer on a pro bono basis, or just some of them as regular flow-of-the-mill clients. Blockchain has so much to offer, but unfortunately many early adopters took advantage of the technology's infancy to scam and defraud other users. As such, crypto made a name for itself as a vehicle to finance drugs and terrorism, launder money, and scam people out of their money. Now I know we're at like a web3 conference, so among us web3 degens, that's not the case, but if you talk to anybody who's outside of the circle of crypto adopters, that's generally the impression that people have when you mention the words crypto and blockchain to them. So now that the industry has matured somewhat following FTX and Celsius and Terra Luna, I think it's time for crypto to write its course and take advantage of blockchain innovation to help make the world a better place. So, and this is a question that I'm opening to all of you. How can blockchain and crypto be used for good? Anybody? It's a workshop, so it's supposed to be more interactive. Yes, sir.
Like an escrow, so he wants to do the back of the
Okay, that's one tool that could be used. I think one problem that's generally commonplace among the nonprofit sector is trust, right? There are a lot of organizations, I mean, just open up the news, you're constantly hearing about these big organizations that you donated money to, you thought that your money was going to X, and it turned out it was going to Y. Finding out that executives within an organization are getting paid ridiculous amounts of money, or that the money is being sent to somewhere that you didn't think it was going to. So trust, accountability, and transparency, these are all terms that we're familiar with within the context of blockchain, and the world of nonprofit organizations can certainly do with a dose of. Environment, typically, people looked at blockchain, but Bitcoin particularly, as something that was bad, harmful for the environment because of its energy consumption. Now, with following the merge and with other chains that have launched recently, we were able to be more conservative as far as energy is concerned, and I think also there have been other applications such as creating markets for carbon credits and otherwise that could be where you could take blockchain and you could use it to make to do good for the environment. Another use case that's typically spoken about is access to banking for the unbanked. Giving with crypto, which is something that I'm going to talk about a little bit more today. Access to art, right? If you look at the NFT industry, whatever you may think about it, there were certainly a lot of scams, but it also did wonders for bringing art to the masses. Empowering creators through IP, also something that we saw through the NFT world where they got really creative with IP. Look at the Bored Apes, for example, or others. And web3 tools like DAOs, NFTs, and smart contracts. All of these things we're going to expound on shortly. So I think if you look at blockchain for good, we could split it into two schools of action. Number one would be building companies or platforms specifically geared towards utilizing blockchain technology for good. For example, Good Dollar, Grow, other organizations which are set up specifically to build Web3 tools for giving and impact. The other way, which is something that I want to focus on more today, is providing tools with which existing organizations can incorporate blockchain technology into their day-to-day operations and fundraising strategy. So what does blockchain have to offer for existing organizations, right? Not Web3-centric organizations, but rather any nonprofit you could think of that's already doing, wonderful things for the world. How can blockchain make, what tools and what benefits can blockchain offer to them? So the first one is transparency and accountability, which we spoke about before. Let's tackle the issue of transparency. As I mentioned before, this is often cited as a major concern to donors who want to see where their funds are going and what impact they're making. With the immutable, transparent nature of blockchain, we can build trust like never before. Each donation made can be tracked from origin to endpoint, which means donors can see their contributions impact in real time. This can create a wave of accountability and trust, something that the philanthropy sector desperately needs. Another one, cutting out the middleman. Imagine you're a donor who wishes to contribute to a cause in a remote part of the world. With a traditional banking system, the process will be plagued by currency exchange rates, hefty transaction fees, and delays. Crypto can bypass these barriers, making transactions almost instantaneous, reducing or even eliminating transaction fees, putting gas fees aside, and maximizing the impact of your donation. Access to a new donor base. Crypto philanthropy opens the door to an entirely new demographic of digital native donors. And shortly, I'm going to bring you a use case where I'm going to be able to show how many of these things can be proven to, these aren't just lines on a slide. These are actually things that we've seen in real time. Millennials and Gen Zs are more likely to own cryptocurrencies than any other demographic group. I'm looking around at the audience here. Embracing blockchain and cryptocurrencies can help nonprofit organizations tap into this new pool of potential donors. Let's talk about smart contracts. Self-executing contracts with the terms of agreement directly written into code. These can automate many processes in the donation and fund allocation cycle, reducing operational costs, increasing efficiency. They can also be designed to release funds only when certain milestones are reached, ensuring that your donation is utilized most effectively. This can also help with dispute resolution, which provides a single view of the truth. Blockchain technology creates a distributed shared system of record among network members that eliminates the need for and disagreements caused by different ledgers. This is all generic stuff that I'm sure you're aware of. This is blockchain at its finest. But it's not just about donations. Blockchain can also enable decentralized decision-making through DAOs. Imagine a community of donors having a say in your organization's key decisions. You democratize philanthropy, making it a more participative and inclusive. Some organizations may opt to issue their own token. Through tokenization, the organization can offer various incentives to its donors. These tokens can represent voting rights, access to services, or even a share of the outcome of the project they support. It's a new way to engage with your community and encourage repeat donations. Finally, blockchain can provide immutable proof of impact. By recording project outcomes in the blockchain, we can provide irrefutable evidence of the differences your organization and donors make in the world. So we've established that blockchain has what to offer in the ways of charity and social impact. 2 years ago, an organization I work with asked me what I thought about selling NFTs for charity. A donor had come to them suggesting it might be an interesting fundraising tool. They knew I was doing crypto stuff and wanted to know what I thought. We started chatting, and given that at that point I had aped into way too many NFT projects which ended up being rug pulls, I suggested holding off on NFTs for a little bit and simply adding functionality for them to receive crypto donations via their website and various different fundraising campaigns. While I was working with the Shalva team, I found out they were also organizing a mission of 65 runners to go run the New York City Marathon, and each runner was tasked with raising $7,500 for Shalva, or what was like 4 ETH at the time. So I started a campaign to raise the money for the marathon in crypto, and it was successful. I had been a runner my whole life, but I never dreamt of running a marathon. However, when this opportunity presented itself, I jumped at it, and like I said, I raised the money in crypto. In the course of my work with Shalva and other organizations, I tried various platforms for crypto donations, including developing one in-house with one of my clients. The best platforms, from my experience, are in Given and the Giving Block. I don't know how many of you are familiar with these platforms, but each of them basically offers a widget which can be embedded in the organization's website and allows donors to make donations in various cryptocurrencies. The widget generates a new, unique wallet address for each transaction. The funds are sent directly to a Gemini or Circle account and are subsequently sent in fiat to the organization's bank account once a week. You don't need to understand crypto or web3 in order to implement these tools. Any organization can take them, put a few lines of code into their website, and have this functionality set up in no time. I highly recommend both of these platforms, although each has its pros and cons. And Given is cheaper and even offers a basic free option, while the Giving Block has stronger brand awareness and offers marketing plans which help you reach crypto donors. In any event, after running the marathon, which was a completely life-changing experience, and I recommend everybody run one at some point in your lives, the folks at Shalva wanted more. They were intrigued by blockchain and the new functionality their Giving Block account afforded them, but, and I should mention that they had not opted to purchase Giving Block's marketing package, they wanted to speak to the people who had crypto. Organizations are typically well-trained in speaking and engaging with their existing donor base, but it's hard to appeal to new communities. And as I mentioned earlier, crypto, for the most part, is held by millennials and Gen Zs, and Shalva's donor base were boomers at best. Shalva is a tremendous organization, which supports families of 2,000 children with disabilities every single day. They have a state-of-the-art facility in the heart of Jerusalem that caters to people of varying religions, cultures, and backgrounds. They raise millions of dollars each year to support their operations, but they didn't know the first thing about crypto. Who are these people who prefer Bitcoins and Ethereums to paper money, and how do we find them and win them over to Shalva's cause, they asked me. The answer, I told them, was to organize an event in Miami. I grew up in New Jersey and naturally assumed that the United States of America didn't extend beyond Manhattan. But I spoke a couple of years ago at Miami NFT Week and was blown away by Miami's energy, especially in the crypto sector. We decided that given we were not yet experts at what I like to call cryptanthropy, the event initially posed more questions than it provided answers and sought primarily to begin a conversation, like the one we're having now, which in my mind nobody's really talking about, around how can blockchain and crypto be used for good. Obviously, as the host of the event and as one of the pioneers on cryptanthropy, on the cryptanthropy playing field, the event was also set up as a fundraiser for Shalva. We partnered up with an artist by the name of Mel Corin, who had done some work for Shalva in the past, and he digitized some of his works in his collection and made them available as NFTs, the proceeds of which were given as donations to Shalva. We also auctioned off an NFT from an OG collection called Desperate Ape Wives, who contributed a specially designed Shalva ape in honor of me running the marathon and raising money for Shalva through crypto donations. The event was a huge success. Over 100 people showed up. The mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, gave a heartwarming keynote address, and people keep calling me, congratulating me, and asking me to run events for charities. This is all really fun, innovative, and well received. And yet, I wish I could say that Shalva raised millions of dollars in ETH, BTC, and stables as a result of our efforts, but unfortunately, that's not the case yet. In an industry where people spend literally millions of dollars in crypto on, in the words of the naysayers, monkey JPEGs, and treat money like it's of no consequence, I kind of expected them to take the same approach when it came to donating to charities with crypto. But for some reason, it hasn't gone that way. I'm consistently negatively surprised by the outcome of crypto fundraising campaigns. The event raised a few $1,000s, but did not bring the open hand that I had expected. I'm still bullish, but I'm also realistic. I believe this is the way forward, and I still encourage adopting these tools. So what can or should you or I do about it? This is a workshop, so in a second I'm going to open up the floor to questions, and I want to also hear what your thoughts are. But generally, my current pessimistic out is the result of having run one and then subsequently more and more campaigns in this industry, and then seeing what I feel is disappointing results. So like I said, what can or should you or I do about it? So the first thing we could do is web3 education, right? We're here to talk about web3 and these tools, regardless of the fact that, in my mind, these haven't raised the millions of dollars that some of the organizations I worked with were expecting. I still think this is the future. Just like blockchain and crypto are the future of finance, I believe that they're also the future of philanthropy. I believe that any organizations that adopt these tools and implement them into their current fundraising strategy ultimately will not be disappointed. I think more and more organizations should embrace these tools, implement donation functionality on their websites, and take other tools such as DAOs, NFTs, tokenization, and implement these into their strategies as well. I think cryptanthropy, right? Giving both ourselves and encouraging others in crypto should be more and more encouraged and adopted. I practice what I preach. A few months ago, I ran another. Hal Finney, who is one of the founders of Bitcoin, and the one who sent the first Bitcoin transaction, died from ALS. And every year there's a Bitcoin running challenge. I once again ran to raise money in crypto. It wasn't ETH, it was Bitcoin. But I think anybody and everybody should adopt these kind of initiatives for themselves, either on an individual level or organizational level. And another thing which I want to suggest is what I call the giving pledge. So back when NFTs were still a thing and artists were creating NFT collections and deploying various digital artworks in the form of NFTs, you could code within your smart contract X percentage of royalties, which would potentially go back to the artist. So the same way that artists are putting these perpetual royalties in for themselves, I would like to encourage artists and companies when they launch their smart contracts, it could be DEXs, it could be anybody, to take the giving pledge and to implement into their smart contract a perpetual percentage of royalties. Again, it could be from a platform or from the sales of a collection that would go to a specific charity. This is something that's easily implemented and could bring in a second huge outcome for any charity. Opening up the floor to you guys. Questions, thoughts, please. I think there's a mic going around.
So I think that when we give money to a donation and it's going by like a middle intermediate, so we send crypto money to this intermediate, and after they send it back to the association. That's right. Sorry, my English is not perfect.
You send money to the intermediary sends money back to the organization?
Yeah, that's the way. That's the things we were talking just before, like about charity, like how do we donate money to association?
In crypto?
Yeah, in crypto.
If you wanted to donate money to a charity, and the charity has implemented any of these widgets on their website, okay? So for example, you want to give 1 ETH to this charity, you put in your wallet address, you put in the amount of, it could be ETH, Bitcoin, almost any, there's functionality for hundreds of tokens, and you could just send it to their wallet and they get it immediately. There's no middleman.
Oh, okay. I didn't understand. Sorry. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
No worries.
Hi. How do you trace the donations? Like, how do you make sure that it's not being misused? Maybe even if it is traced, that it is used for the exact actions you have donated the money for.
So the transaction itself would be on chain, okay? You're saying even if I could see that the money went from my wallet to the organization's wallet, how do I know that they're spending it appropriately?
Yeah, I mean, if like many people, especially people who are not that into crypto, let's say they're laymen that want to donate, how do you make sure that they know how the money is sent to which person and how it's used, basically? Because
excellent
let's say the organization is taking it, they say thank you, and then they're spending it on something else, like something for their own use.
Excellent question. All these tools are tools that are available and offered by blockchain, okay? The organization has to adopt them in order to make, adopt them through and through. So it could be that there's the payment process is set up. So the organization receives your donation to their wallet, but then they withdrew it and still, use it to go out and buy a bunch of pizzas. Exactly. So in order for organizations to fully leverage blockchain, the potential of blockchain, they need to be fully transparent, so that they need to put, all of their expenditures on chain. It doesn't have to mean that they spend everything on chain, but like just making things, making transactions available, making information available. Theoretically, everything could go on chain. I know that there's like this concept of there's this, everybody's running to put everything on chain. Not everything needs to be on chain, but specifically when we're talking about accountability and transparency, and organizations that should be public and available for their donors, they should put this information on chain. But it's another step in the.
I mean, but if you want to spend the money you're receiving, you have to convert it into fiat money in order to buy. I mean, at least nowadays. In the future, when everyone uses blockchain, okay, but you have to. I mean, right now you're saying we are able to donate with crypto right now, right?
So you're saying, in the end of the day, everything needs to go to become fiat anyways today, and then once it's in fiat, it may be less transparent. So like I said, like their spending could also be put on chain. It doesn't have to be spent in crypto. It could be spent in kind, in fiat. But you could make your transaction history or whatever. It could be receipts. It could be any kind of information. You could put it on chain theoretically. Again, anybody could do that. You don't have to have.
So you're scanning the receipts and you're uploading it on
theoretically, it could be. I'm saying these are tools that blockchain offers, and we're taking a long-term approach here generally, right? Not everything could be done tomorrow. Not everything should be done tomorrow, but ultimately that will be the way of the future.
And how does your because you talked about you raised money for certain events, for certain charity events. How do you make sure that the people who have paid the money in get the transparency?
So those donations are made through one of the platforms I spoke to. We work primarily with Given and the Giving Block, and everything is transparent on chain, and they support multiple chains and multiple currencies. Okay. It's all done through the platform.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I was wondering, so sometimes I use a platform called Doing Good, DOINGUD. So it's maybe you're familiar with it.
I'm familiar with them, yeah.
Yeah. So for maybe the rest of the crowd, it's you put your NFTs on there, and then you actually designate a charitable recipient. So rather than the royalty going back to the artist, which can still remain. The artists can still get their royalty, but on top of that, there's also that charitable aspect. So you can, if you want to give to the Red Cross, for example, you can just put that into your NFT when you post your NFT on Doing Good for sale.
In other words, you upload your NFT, you put up a sale price, and you write 20% of the proceeds will go to the Red Cross, for example?
Yes, precisely, yeah.
Yes, that's similar to what I was talking about, the giving pledge, but here instead of having to be a creator, you could be, any individual could do that. That's amazing. That's the way forward as far as I'm concerned. I think more and more people need to be using Doing Good and other platforms, and just everything. We just look at volumes from like DeFi. Like there's billions of dollars that are being traded daily. Like small fraction of that could be sent to a charity, and it could make a world of a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And just one more thought to that point is, like what about, rather than having to maybe put a whole NFT collection together to raise funds for a marathon, for example, what about putting, initializing a POAP or a badge or something like that, just so that somebody, if they are donating, as this gentleman was raising the point of like, where's the impact report? I wonder if that could maybe be sort of like a quasi kind of a...
I love all these ideas. Like initially when anybody who donated money to my campaign that wasn't in crypto, I still sent them a POAP as like a token of thanks. I just think that Web3 generally has so much to offer. Like we just touched on like a little bit of it, but like taking any of these tools and and I think a conversation needs to be had with existing organizations that are not Web3 centric about how can these tools empower your organization. That's kind of what I do. I go around and I sit with organizations and we talk about what these things are. Like we talk about Web3 adoption all the time, and it's like it's a grind with any Web2 company. It's no different with charitable organizations. It's just that the impact is different here. So just sitting down, having a conversation, understanding their day-to-day operations and how any of these things that we spoke about where are we now? Education, donation functionality, DAOs, NFTs, tokens, all of these things can be relevant to a multitude of different organizations, and it's just a matter of sitting down and having the conversation and understanding how they could be implemented. That's what I'm here to do, to spark this conversation. I just don't think enough people are putting a focus on it, and you guys are all ambassadors now. You should go home and speak to the organizations that you're aware of. Tell them, I'm passionate about this thing called blockchain, and I really think that it could bring a lot of value to you and to your organization. Let's sit down and have this conversation. Any other questions? Yeah, sure.
Hey there. So I think one thing that wasn't mentioned based on the question that was asked by the gentleman who just left is about oracles. So obviously there's this quote, garbage in, garbage out. I think once data is on a blockchain, you can trust that it lives transparently and with integrity, but ultimately, if something's been spent in the real world, there needs to be an off-ramping process. And the same way that the tokenized carbon credits market and systems using like decentralized oracles to be able to trust that any data that is recorded onto the blockchain and anything that happens once it leaves the blockchain is done so as transparently and as fraud-proofly, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, as possible. Another thing that could also be applied is different funding models. So I'm not sure if you've heard of Optimism's retrospective public goods funding. Mm-hmm. So this is when something is funded once the action or the impact is actually realized. So instead of funding things before they happen, hoping for the best, you're only funding it once the impact is actually taken place. So I think putting these two things together, one oracles and one alternative funding models, can give the donor more assurance that the money that they're putting to use is doing what it's meant to.
I think that's a great solution.
Hello. Yeah, we're thinking about taxes, because you mentioned that as one of the main benefits. And I understand that for individuals when you do a small transaction, but what happens with organizations that they might want to transfer big amounts, and I don't know if they also need to use a tax deduction for doing their social responsibility part. So I don't know how that works for big amounts, or how would that work at least?
It would work, to my understanding, it would work the same as it would for an individual. You'd have those same tax benefits on a large scale that you would on a smaller individual scale as well. So you could donate as an individual, you could donate as a corporation, and you'd have those same tax benefits. At least,
What do you mean tax benefits?
You'd have a tax deduction.
Okay, but you said that
it's a
that you pay zero. You said.
What's that?
Like in one of the slides, there was a tax example.
I know you're. So
like you mean that in a transaction, right?
You're referring to this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is taken from a report that was issued just like a couple months ago by the Giving Block. It's like a lot of really interesting statistics of over giving through the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
despite what I said about being pessimistic over, for the outcome of some of the fundraising campaigns that I've seen, there's like millions and millions of dollars that are donated in crypto every year. Probably not on the individual level, probably more on the corporation level that you were talking about. And one of the main benefits for that is because of the tax benefits. So if you're a trader or if you're anybody who's had any NFTs in the last 2 years, you have a lot of losses that you could recognize. In addition, if you make donations in crypto, okay, and they're recognized from a tax deductible perspective as a 501(c)(3) in the United States, or I don't know what that translates to here in France, you could you can get a tax rebate from the tax authorities. So
But is that a tax benefit in the States or like where it depends, right?
Again, I'm aware of the tax benefits available in the United States and in Israel. I'm not aware of what's available, but I'm sure that it's like almost the same thing because we've seen. I mean, we see donations coming in from all over the world. I'm not familiar with the ins and outs. I'm happy to put you in touch with colleagues of mine who are upstairs, who are more familiar with that here in France.
Okay, awesome. One more thing, I was thinking about something that she said, or that you also mentioned about donating like a small percentage on every transaction. Maybe, I don't know if there's already something like that, but maybe it could be good. Snap, that would be a plugin for MetaMask. That would be optional, but you can select on every or with each transfer a small amount to transfer to an organization. Just an idea. That could be something.
Again, I'm up for any ideas. Like we sparked an interesting conversation here. I think there's a lot of work to be done. Like I said, each one of you guys are ambassadors going forward. Where if you're developers, you can go and develop these solutions. If you're if you're working with organizations, you could start implementing these today. And you have my contact details here if you want to reach out and have questions. Thank you guys very much.